Don Valley North.
My name is Khadija Wasim and I'm from Don Valley North. As a Muslim, as a Canadian, as a hijabi, I wanted to foremost thank you for calling the Quebec shooting for what it was, which was an act of terrorism, and I really... victimization of always having to condemn after the fact needs to stop. And how long will it take for Islamophobia to be condemned in this House of Leaders? How long will it take? How long will it take for hate that I experience on my way to school as a commerce student at U of T, the effect that I have on the TTC, or on any day when I'm walking down the street? How long will it take for the leaders of this House to recognize that the need to condemn Islamophobia, to condemn the issues that are faced by my Indigenous sisters, are a need of the current time and needs to happen now? One more add-on, sorry. And we talked a lot about mental health, and Sophie does an exceptional job doing that, and I appreciate it. But what about the mental health of our Indigenous sisters and brothers that are in reserves that do not have the same access that I had in urban Toronto that they do not have in reserves? Thank you, Danny.
On mental health, there is no question that it is something that is both extremely important to me as my mother's son, and I'm so proud of the work my mom's doing destigmatizing mental health, as incredibly proud of Sophie with all her work on fighting mental health and eating disorder issues and just talking about being healthy. But we know that there's an awful lot more to do, and that's why we have set forward billions of dollars for the provinces over the coming years, specifically to address mental health amongst young people. We know that young people have when they have the first challenges with mental health, if they get help right away or in a timely manner, it changes the path in a positive way for the rest of their lives, and therefore for our entire society. This is something that needs to be acted on. It's something we're very serious about, as well as specifically Indigenous mental health as well. There's an awful lot of work to do, but we are finally moving forward on that in a very real way. On Islamophobia, we have been seeing over the past while a rise in expressions of hate and in hate crimes across the country. Yesterday, we had an attack on a mosque in Calgary, but we also had attacks on the Jewish community in the GTA. We have examples of racism, intolerance, and hatred spiking up all across the country over the past months. Obviously, the terrible terrorist attack in Quebec City was an example of it, was a particularly brutal example of it, but we have an awful lot more to do. It may reassure you to know that last fall, this House unanimously, every member in this House, approved of a motion condemning Islamophobia. It was unanimously approved. That was a good measure. It was a moment where everyone came together and agreed. It was a motion by Mr. Mulcair, and we were glad to have this House condemn Islamophobia. More recently, when a motion came forward to not just condemn Islamophobia, but to ask the House of Commons committee to study it, to get into the issues around it and to see what we can do in a very open way about moving forward on something that is unfortunately increasing in terms of intolerance, it has created a bit of a debate. And on one hand, I'd like to think that everyone can all get up and always condemn things that are bad and move on. But on the other hand, sometimes it's useful for people to stand up and disagree. to point out to the rest of us that there's still a lot of work to do. If everyone had just agreed and we'd moved on, maybe we wouldn't be addressing the very scary and real spike in hate speech. Maybe we wouldn't be challenging each other as politicians in the things that we're saying, in the choices we make as leaders to play up divisions and fears. It's easy to try and scare people into voting for you. It's easy to try and say something that's going to pit a neighbor against a neighbor. And if you do it in a sneaky way and use coded language, maybe you won't get called on it by the majority. Maybe you'll get to slip it through. Well, if M103, condemning Islamophobia, actually gets people to notice that there are people uncomfortable with that idea, that there are people who still have problems with the idea that we would condemn discrimination against Muslims, then we have to know. We have to expose that, and we have to deal with it as a society. Because if this room isn't a reflection of what's happening in our streets, in our towns, in our communities, then we're not dealing with the real things that Canadians expect us to deal with. So, do we have a problem with Islamophobia in this country? Yes, we do. Do we have a problem with anti-Semitism in this country? Yes, we do. Do we have a problem in this country with discrimination and hatred? Yes, we do. And we need to talk about this. And we need to challenge each other to be better on this. We need to recognize that we still have a problem because there are men out there who will not say, yes, I am a feminist. We need to recognize that saying and bringing forward truths that are uncomfortable to some, and challenge each other to shift our ways of thinking out of the easy ways we do, to lay open wounds to sunshine and disinfectant. That is also the role that we have in this House and that we have as active, engaged citizens in this country. We need to speak up. The silent majority of good people in Canada who are not intolerant, who are not bigoted, need to know they can be less silent. We need to speak up for the things we believe in. This House and every House across this country needs to be a reflection of that. And I know with the voices that we've heard today in this House, not only is today in good hands, but our future collectively is in very, very good hands. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, everyone.